They called them the Destroyers. Legends spoke of beings who shattered worlds and remade stars to their liking. The galaxy trembled at their memory, preserved in whispered warnings passed through generations. But what the Galactic Confederation never suspected was that the terrifying force they had banished from memory had returned, wearing human skin. And they had no idea what they'd awakened. Shadows of the past. Dr. Elena Reyes brushed dust from the strange metallic panel, her pulse quickening as ancient symbols flickered to life beneath her touch. After 3 years excavating this remote planetary ruin, they were finally getting somewhere. "Captain Morris, you need to see this," she called over her shoulder, voice echoing through the cavernous chamber. The Alliance military officer crossed the room in long strides, his expression guarded as always when dealing with alien technology. The Galactic Confederation had strict protocols about handling artifacts, especially those from the mysterious civilization they called the Destroyers. "Is it active?" Morris asked, instinctively resting his hand on his sidearm. "Responding to something," Elena murmured, eyes fixed on the pulsing light. "But I don't think it's dangerous. These patterns mesh fragments we found across 3 different star systems. The chamber around them was unlike anything constructed by the 12 known species of the Confederation. Impossibly smooth walls curved into geometric patterns that seemed to defy conventional physics. Materials that shouldn't exist according to current understanding of metallurgy. And most strangely, everything felt oddly familiar to human touch. "The Vex representative is having a meltdown in orbit," Morris said, checking his communicator. "Says we violated their most sacred directive by bringing humans to this site." Elena smiled wryly. "They've been saying that since humanity joined the Confederation 60 years ago, every ancient site, every dead world, suddenly off-limits when humans want to explore. Makes you wonder what they're hiding," Morris replied. Their conversation halted as a low hum vibrated through the chamber. The wall Elena had been examining was changing, sections sliding apart to reveal a deeper passage. "Log this," she instructed her research assistant, Jen, who stood wide-eyed behind them. Movement triggered by human contact. No apparent security measures. Dr. Reyes called Takeda, their xenolinguist, from across the room. "I've made progress with these inscriptions. They're not Vex or Arturian origin. They don't match any Confederation language patterns." Elena joined him at the wall of symbols. 3 years of working with fragments across distant worlds, and the breakthrough was happening now. She felt a shiver of anticipation. The Arturi ambassador always claimed these ruins belonged to those who came before, Elena said. "The devils who nearly destroyed the galaxy, according to their mythology." "Mythology usually contains kernels of truth," Takeda replied, his fingers tracing the unusual markings. "But these symbols, they respond to mathematical sequencing in a way that feels." He paused, searching for the word. "Human," Elena finished. "They feel human." Their team of 12, the only humans permitted on this excavation, gathered around the newly opened passage. The air smelled of ozone and something indefinable, like ocean salt, but sharper. Darkness extended beyond their lights. "Protocol says we should wait for Confederation approval before proceeding," Morris reminded them. Though his own curiosity was evident, Elena checked her instruments. No radiation, breathable atmosphere, stable temperature. She looked at the captain with a determined expression. "We've waited 3 years while they debated allowing us this far. I'm not waiting another 3 for them to decide if we can walk down a hallway." Morris sighed but nodded. Security formation. Researchers in the middle. Weapons non-lethal only. The passage descended in a gentle spiral, lighting itself as they progressed. Each step triggered more systems awakening from dormancy. Eventually, they emerged into a vast circular chamber with a raised platform at its center. "It's a control room," whispered Jen. "Or a command center." Elena approached the central platform cautiously. It was inscribed with more of the strange symbols, but arranged differently, less like writing and more like. "It's a star map," she gasped, recognizing constellations instantly. When she stepped onto the platform, everything changed. The room illuminated fully, and holographic displays burst into existence around them. A voice spoke, a deep, resonant sound that made every human in the room freeze in shock. The aliens in their group, two artillery scientists and a Vex observer, recoiled in terror. "What is it saying?" Morris demanded. Takeda shook his head, bewildered. "That's the thing, Captain. It's speaking the human language, ancient Earth Latin, or something very close to it." Elena stared at the holographic displays, which now showed solar systems, planets, and what appeared to be massive structures orbiting distant stars. "It's saying, 'Welcome home, descendants,'" she translated slowly, her academic knowledge of classical languages suddenly incredibly valuable. "It's been waiting for us." The Vex observer was frantically communicating with its ship. The translator on his environment suit couldn't keep up with his agitated speech, but fragments came through. "Awakening sequence. Prohibited. Emergency protocols." "Dr. Reyes," Morris said firmly, "what exactly have we stumbled into?" Elena couldn't tear her eyes from the displays showing what appeared to be a vast interstellar civilization, one that predated the Confederation by millennia. "I think," she said carefully, "we've just discovered why the Confederation has been keeping humans away from these sites." She turned to face her team, expression somewhere between wonder and shock. "These aren't alien ruins. They're human." The room rumbled as more systems activated. One by one, displays showed similar facilities across dozens of worlds lighting up, responding to the activation sequence initiated here. "Impossible," argued one of the artillery scientists. "Humans were a primitive species when the Confederation discovered Earth 60 years ago. Your kind barely had achieved basic spaceflight." "And yet," Elena said, pointing to a date stamp on one of the displays, "according to this, humans built this facility over 15,000 years ago." The implications were staggering. If humans had once possessed technology far beyond current Confederation capabilities, what had happened? How had humanity fallen so far? And why did every alien species seem terrified of these ruins? Before they could process these questions, the Vex observer's translator finally caught up with his frantic communications. "Emergency evacuation ordered. All Confederation personnel must leave immediately. Destroyer protocol initiated." "Destroyer protocol?" Morris questioned, hand moving to his weapon. The Vex turned to them, his crystalline features impossible to read, but his fear evident in his trembling voice. "The ancients, the destroyers of worlds, the ones who burned 1,000 civilizations before the Great Purge." Elena looked from the alien to the awakening human technology around them. "You think the destroyers were human?" "Not think." "No," the Vex replied. "And now you have awakened what the Confederation spent millennia trying to erase." As if responding to his words, a new hologram appeared, a recording of some kind. It showed humans dressed in uniforms unlike anything in modern Earth history, speaking urgently. Takeda translated haltingly. "Final evacuation protocol enacted. Earth compromised. All remaining personnel to proceed to sanctuary worlds. Confederation forces have breached Sol defenses. This facility will remain dormant until human genetic markers are detected. Remember, we were betrayed, but we will return." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't evolved on Earth. They had been driven back to it, reduced to a primitive state by the very alliance that had discovered them millennia later. "We need to contact Earth immediately," Elena said, her voice steady despite the revelation shaking her worldview. "The Confederation has been lying to us since first contact." "That won't be possible," the Vex observer stated. "Confederation ships are already moving to quarantine this system. No transmissions will be permitted." Morris's security team readied their weapons, forming a protective circle around the researchers. "Then we'd better find another way to communicate," Elena said, turning back to the ancient human interface. "Because I have a feeling our ancestors left us more than just a message." The facility trembled again, and deep below them, something massive began to power up. Legacy of Fire. The Confederation Quarantine Fleet arrived within hours. 27 warships surrounding the small research vessel in orbit. Their ultimatum was simple. All humans were to evacuate the planet immediately, abandoning all research and discoveries. Elena Reyes had no intention of complying. "They're panicking," she told Captain Morris as they huddled in the ancient facility's lower levels. Their expedition had split, half returning to the orbiting vessel as demanded, half remaining hidden in the ruins with communications blocked. "That tells us everything we need to know about what we found." "It tells us we've stepped into something dangerous," Morris countered, though he had chosen to stay with the research team. "If humans were these destroyers they fear so much, maybe there's good reason." Elena studied the captain's face in the blue glow of the ancient displays. "Are you suggesting our ancestors deserved what happened to them?" "I'm suggesting we proceed with caution," he replied evenly. "Whatever happened between humans and the Confederation species was 15,000 years ago. We need information, not vengeance." He was right, of course. Elena turned back to the command interface where Takeda and Jen were making progress translating the ancient systems. With each passing hour, more of the facility came online, and more of humanity's forgotten history was revealed. "It's extraordinary," Jen murmured, displaying a holographic timeline. "According to these records, humans achieved interstellar travel nearly 20,000 years ago, long before any current Confederation species. We expanded rapidly," Takeda continued, scrolling through star charts showing human settlements. "Not through conquest, initially, but through scientific outposts and mining operations. But then we encountered other intelligent species." The displays showed first contact scenarios with familiar races, early Vex, primitive archery, and others. In those ancient times, humans had been technologically superior by millennia. What went wrong? Elena wondered aloud. How did we go from this to barely reaching our own moon 60 years ago? The answer came from deeper in the archives, records of growing tensions between human expansion and developing alien civilizations. Humanity's technological advancement had accelerated exponentially, fueled by artificial intelligence systems that alien species found unpredictable and frightening. "They called us the unpatterned ones," Takeda translated from one diplomatic record. "Our thought processes were too chaotic, too innovative for them to predict or understand. They feared what we might become. So they formed an alliance against us," Elena concluded, watching the historical simulation show the formation of what would become the Confederation. Originally, a military coalition specifically created to contain humanity. The war had lasted centuries. Humans, despite their technological advantages, were vastly outnumbered. World after world fell, until only Earth and a handful of sanctuary planets remained. The final attack on Sol system, Morris read from the translated text. "They didn't just defeat us, they systematically destroyed our civilization, bombarded Earth with weapons that caused technological regression, then maintained quarantines for millennia to ensure humans would forget our past, and then discovered us once we'd rebuilt to a manageable level of technology." Elena finished bitterly. "Welcomed us into their confederation as a junior species, hiding the truth that we built wonders when they were still figuring out basic spaceflight." A notification pulsed on the main display, drawing their attention. Throughout their research, the facility had been establishing connections with other dormant human installations across the galaxy. Now a network status appeared, hundreds of green points of light representing awakened systems. "That's why they're panicking up there," Jen said, pointing upward toward the Confederation fleet. "Every human facility across Confederation space is coming online simultaneously." Dr. Reyes called one of the junior researchers from another console. "I found something about Earth. There's a shield network of some kind buried beneath the surface. It activated when this facility came online." Elena moved to the console, stunned by what she saw. Beneath Earth's surface and oceans, a vast defensive system had lain dormant for 15 millennia, now awakening with the rest of humanity's forgotten technology. "The Confederation never fully conquered us," she whispered. "Our ancestors planned for this moment. They knew someday humans would rediscover the truth." Captain Morris's communicator suddenly crackled to life. The jamming had stopped. The voice of Admiral Chen, commander of Earth's small defensive fleet, came through clearly. "Captain Morris, if you're receiving this, the situation has changed dramatically. Confederation vessels across human space have withdrawn to defensive positions. We're receiving transmissions from facilities we never knew existed. Earth defense systems we never built are coming online." Elena exchanged glances with Morris. "They're afraid we'll seek revenge," she realized. "Wouldn't you?" Morris asked quietly. "After what they did to our ancestors?" Elena considered the question seriously, looking around at the evidence of humanity's former greatness and its violent suppression. "No," she finally said. "Revenge is what they expect from the destroyers. It would only confirm their fears were justified." She stepped onto the central platform, interfacing directly with the ancient system. "Can you broadcast to all activated human facilities?" A simple affirmative response appeared, "and to the Confederation fleet." Another affirmation. Elena took a deep breath and looked at her team. "Then it's time we write a new chapter of human history, one that doesn't repeat the mistakes of the past." The broadcast connected her to every awakened human facility across the galaxy and to the Confederation ships above. Elena spoke clearly, her words translated into all Confederation languages. "This is Dr. Elena Reyes of Earth. We have discovered the truth of our past, that humans once stood among the stars before being forced into forgetting. We know of the fear that drove the Confederation to commit what many would consider an unforgivable act against our species." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "But we are not the ancients you fear. We are their descendants, shaped by 15,000 years of rebuilding, of striving against adversity without the knowledge of what was taken from us. The humans you know today, the ones you invited into your Confederation, are defined not by the achievements of our ancestors, but by our own choices." The facility hummed around her, as if the ancient systems themselves were listening. "We could use this recovered technology to reclaim what was taken. The defensive systems across human worlds are now active. But that is not our path. Instead, we offer something unexpected: understanding. You feared our unpredictability, our chaotic innovation, the very things that made humans different. Today, we prove those differences don't make us destroyers." On displays throughout the facility, they could see Confederation ships holding position, waiting. "We propose a new beginning, not as conquerors reclaiming an empire, not as victims seeking justice, but as genuine partners who bring different strengths to our shared galaxy. The technology of our ancestors will not be weaponized, but shared, with appropriate safeguards that protect all species from misuse." Elena looked at Morris, who nodded his approval. "As proof of our intentions, we're providing the location of all activated human facilities to Confederation authorities. We invite joint research teams to these sites. We choose cooperation over confrontation. We choose to break the cycle of fear that has defined our shared history." When she finished speaking, the facility fell silent. For several tense minutes, there was no response from the Confederation fleet. Then, a transmission came through, not from the warships, but from the Artillery High Council itself. "We acknowledge the truth revealed today," the Artillery elders stated formally. "For millennia, the Confederation has been built upon a foundation of deception about humanity's past. Your response to this discovery demonstrates that perhaps our ancestors were wrong about the nature of your species." More communications followed, from Vex leaders, from other Confederation races, and finally from human authorities on Earth who were still coming to terms with the revelations about their own history. In the days that followed, Elena's team continued to explore the ancient facility, but now joined by Confederation scientists who approached human technology with wary respect rather than fear. The quarantine fleet had withdrawn, replaced by research vessels. Was it the right choice? Morris asked Elena privately, As they watched humans and aliens working side by side on technology that had once made the galaxy tremble, our ancestors might have wanted retribution. Elena considered the star map showing human facilities lighting up across the galaxy, not as fortresses preparing for war, but as beacons of rediscovered knowledge. Our ancestors wanted humanity to survive, she replied. And we did, not just physically, but in spirit. They feared us because they couldn't predict what humans would do when confronted with the truth. She smiled. I like to think we just proved their fears unfounded by doing the one thing truly alien to them, choosing peace when we could have chosen war. Morris nodded slowly. The most human thing about us has always been our capacity to surprise. Above them, the ancient facilities systems hummed with renewed purpose as humanity reclaimed its legacy, not as the destroyers the galaxy had feared, but as architects of a future none of the ancient enemies could have predicted. Not with a war of fire, but with an unexpected peace, humanity truly returned to the stars. The end.